It began in the oil fields. Oklahoma's sunny economic picture suddenly looked gloomy as oil field workers were laid off across the state. Hundreds of auto workers lost their jobs too, and the unemployed workers scurried to unemployment offices to draw their benefits. But in Oklahoma, there's a $2,000 10-week limit on the amount of money a person can draw. In fact, according to local labor leaders, Oklahoma ranks 50th in the nation in unemployment compensation. And today, men representing the steel workers, UAW, and machinists union called a press conference to say Oklahoma must do something now to help the unemployed.
Oklahoma is not doing fine. 2 out of every 3 unemployed workers in Oklahoma have run out of unemployment benefits. The very backbone of this state has been laid off. We have people that are getting laid off now with 10, 11, 12, 15 years seniority in their plants. They have never been laid off before in their lives, and they're being turned out in the street like a bunch of cattle and no money.
The men said with 100,000 people out of work in the state, it is not a union issue, rather a people issue they would like the legislature to look at right away. Bellishaw, Action 4 at the state capitol.
You're just breaking up both neighborhoods if we break up one or the other. And I think that'd be much better. And just remember, Willard is almost 80 years old.
The arguments in the people have been the same for almost a year. At the stand, members of the Willard Neighborhood Association ardently pushing for their children to have a new or renovated school. On the panel, members of the Oklahoma School Board, indecisive and sometimes not completely informed. For all persons involved, it's been a frustrating situation, but it may finally have come to an end.
I'd like for us to find some good reasons for doing what we should do, and that is furnish these kids with a decent school in both communities and leave them where they are and leave them alone.
I agree with Mr. Long that we're in the business of educating children, and sometimes to educate those children you have to work on the inside of those children, their self-esteem and how they view the world, and show them another side of life.
I move that we as the board vote to build 2 new school buildings in these sites.
I'll second.
After almost a year of indecision, the Oklahoma City School Board has made a decision, one that makes the neighborhoods of the 2 schools and the parents of the students very happy.
6 aye and 1 no.
Okay, so the motion carried then that we will have 2 new buildings on the current sites.
Sherry Sellers, Action 4 at the Oklahoma City School Board meeting.
You have an extension already been done by the federal government that we don't know what its effect is. We have a new benefit program that goes into effect in January. It's already on the books that will go into effect. We don't know what the exact situation is, and so until we assess what all that is, it would not be proper, in my opinion, to say what we will or will not do. You always should know the facts before you shoot.
The man was shot shortly after he robbed a convenience store at Southwest 44th and Rancho at gunpoint. Police believe he was responsible for the robbery of at least 2 other convenience stores in the area. In fact, Officer Mike Hamilton was responding to another robbery when he saw the man holding the store clerk at gunpoint. Inside, the clerk said the man made him lie on the floor before he left. A few minutes later, the clerk says he heard 2 gunshots.
The man had exited the store and walked across the street and was standing by a stone pillar. A vehicle apparently attempting to pick the armed robbery suspect up was coming by the location at the same time and sped away eastbound. The officer exited his car. As he did, the man pulled a pistol from his belt, cocked the pistol, and pointed it at the officer. Officer Hamilton fired 2 shots. Apparently both shots struck the man in the chest. He was taken to South Community Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival.
The man had no identification, so police haven't determined who he was. The apparent accomplice abandoned his car at 27th and South Shields. One report is that this robbery would have netted the pair only $15 because the store keeps a minimal amount of cash on hand at night, as do most other all-night stores. Officer Hamilton has been routinely relieved of field duty pending an investigation of the shooting. Charles Schnitzer, Action Force, Southwest Oklahoma City.
Randy and some others have created a nonprofit organization called, and it's a project in which they are assisting children who have a, say, terminally ill condition and granting them some kind of special wish. And as governor today, I'm issuing a proclamation urging Oklahomans to support them in making these special wishes come true. Randy, who was going to
that felt the same way that we did, or that those of us in Oklahoma City. I have a feeling you'll find probably in Idaho and places like that anyway. I don't know what state. Right now, I'm involved in a statistical study of armed robbers, and for this past year, just today, one of the detectives brought in an individual that we've just identified as far as pulling 3 recent robberies, and the man just got out of prison within the last month, and on parole, I might add.
Well, I hope that you get it through because I never come to Oklahoma anymore because you don't have horse racing. And it's very sad that our understanding back east is you don't have horses in Oklahoma, and therefore you couldn't run them. But if you got pari-mutuel betting, I think it would change your whole image here. You don't have any football teams, and so I think it would be a great state for horse racing.
Buying a home in Oklahoma City has become a little more popular these days, according to figures released by the Oklahoma City Board of Realtors.
I do think your furniture would work in here. It does, you know, the sofas are pretty good size. 3 cushions is pretty good size.
Last month, 653 homes were purchased in the Oklahoma City area, up 4% over July. But while sales have come up in recent months, they still lag far behind last year's figures. But that statistic has not worried local realtors, and they expect an upward trend in home sales. The reason for their optimism? Lower interest rates.
We do have more possibilities of financing property. The owners are helping us finance, and the interest rates are coming down, and obviously this is helping that first buyer tremendously.
While some buyers are waiting for even lower rates, others are buying now, and for different reasons.
Well, it's a way to make money. You can buy and sell, and every time you turn around, hopefully you'll make money on your home.
The average price for a home in Oklahoma City is almost $71,000. But experts are betting on lower interest rates and predict a steady market through the remainder of 1982. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
Going to redial the hospital, the base station, and they will, once it's problems, you don't have your button, you can't. And then we have what we call the sip and puff, and this is for the quadriplegic person who can push nothing. They have no function in their hands or arms, and with the little blow here, it will activate the lifeline unit, and they can be at home for periods of time. It can be strapped right to where their mouth is. Stay with them for a few days, you'd have to say, I can't go. I have to reset lifeline. It will tell us they want. Now, this portable help button normally comes with a little clip, and I think Alice was using the clip so that it would fit over her belt or in her pocket.
The controversy hinges on the use of dogs and cats for medical research. OU Health Sciences Center investigators use the animals to search for cures to human diseases. In the past, the university has bought animals from dealers. The school would now like to purchase unclaimed animals from the city pound for $15 apiece. That proposal has infuriated animal lovers who say pets should not be used for research.
We are against using pound animals. Those are animals that have belonged to human beings. And Dr. Michael Fox, in addition to the statement Ms. Palmer made, really feels that an animal suffers more than a human being because he sees no end to his suffering, and he has no idea what he's suffering for.
University officials defended their research practices. They said all animal experiments are strictly supervised.
We are not inhumane. In addition to what you've been told, there is a committee which backs up his first evaluation of all proposal. If he has any question, the committee reviews the total proposal in terms of what would be done if it were begun, not afterwards. And the university, I think, is pursuing the proper goals.
Council members will weigh the information received today. The vote on whether to accept the university's proposal is scheduled for next Tuesday. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at Oklahoma City Council Chambers.
I think what we had was faulty inventory taking. I think we have faulty weights. I think we failed to account for the weight of the boxes, the containers, the bones. So this can really mount up, and it can certainly give the indication of something being gone when actually we have no indication that it actually left campus.
The Pasifina is the Western Hemisphere's oldest native breed. They're the result of a mixed breeding of horses that Christopher Columbus brought to the New World nearly 500 years ago. The Pasifina was the horse used by the Spanish conquistadors. They were named for their delicate walk. The Pasofino is known for its flamboyant style, and that style pleased a lot of people, young and old. They're not only impressive show horses. In South America, they're used to work on sugarcane and coffee plantations, and they're used as cutting horses on cattle ranches. So you want to be a star. So do a group of Oklahomans who have auditioned for a television special about life in the Oklahoma oil fields. These unknowns hope to capture part in the play Red Dust Country. They're looking for that one break that could make them a household name. Director Don Spence says he wants 14 men and 14 women who can bring the show to life.
Especially sorry after meeting you that I can't stay here. It would have been nice to be able to maybe get to know you better.
Camera can catch everything, and we look for sincerity. They don't have to have the experience. Most of the scenes are very short scenes so that we can direct them through it. No particular problem. We've had a lot of people without experience show up, and they've given excellent readings, and been very impressed with them.
When they were sick of one of their children was sick.
Production of the show should start in a couple of weeks. Most of the filming will be done in the Oklahoma City area. Then it's hoped the final product will be televised here and in Tulsa. Who knows from there? Maybe a network would want it. And then one of these people might become the next Robert Redford or Jane Fonda. Bill Ross, Action 4 in southwest Oklahoma City.
Handgun owners are on the increase in Oklahoma City, yet the vast majority of gun owners don't know anything about their weapons. Law enforcement officials encourage people to practice using their gun at a gun range with qualified instructors to point out what a gun can and cannot do. With the crime rate on the rise, homeowners are flocking to the nearby gun store for what some feel is instant protection. More and more women are becoming the gun shop's biggest customers, and women seem to be the best students.
Most of them are scared in the beginning, yeah, but after they get finished, they're very good, and most women are naturally better than men. They're naturally very good shooters, don't have any trouble once they get in and broke in. People who have a gun in their home, and over 90% of the people in Oklahoma do, they need to learn how to use them, just like in driving a car.
Hall says there is no right or wrong type of gun. It all depends on what a person is comfortable with. And there is no certain time limit on how long a person should be taught to use a firearm. The only important factor is, before the trigger is pulled, know what you are doing, so you can walk away knowing the gun was fired at the right time. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
Penn Square Bank was declared insolvent by the controller of the currency on July 5th. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation moved in supplies to begin operating the bank. But the FDIC has done more than run Penn Square. It's also investigated possible criminal misconduct. Congressman Benjamin Rosenthal has released an internal FDIC memorandum listing 30 possible criminal violations that have been reported to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. The amount of money involved is $71 million. The charges include embezzlement, kickbacks, conspiracy, wire fraud, and interstate transportation of stolen property. No names of individuals were listed. The largest amount on the list is for $31.3 million. That's reportedly the amount of a note sold by Penn Square to Chase Manhattan Bank. Fortune magazine has said a $30 million note was made by this man, Robert Hefner, to Bill Patterson, a former Penn Square Bank vice president. The money wasn't repaid on time, and Fortune reported the $30 million was changed to $31.3 million when the note was sold to Chase. This is John Lytle. He was loaned $565,010 by Penn Square Bank. That amount is also on the FDIC memorandum. Lytle used to be a vice president of Continental Illinois Bank. He was fired after Continental suffered heavy losses on loans bought from Penn Square Bank. Lytle and Continental Illinois officers will be in Washington tomorrow to testify before the House Banking Committee. They'll be joined by executives of Seattle First National and Michigan National Banks. Those institutions were also big losers when Penn Square failed. Bill Ross, Action 4 at Penn.
This is Smith's Printing and Specialty Company in northeast Oklahoma City. The business is 3 months old and it took $40,000 to get it started. Some would say this is a risky venture at a time when a record number of small businesses are dying a quick death. Smith is aware of the statistics, yet he expects his printing company to do $100,000 worth of business in a year. The veteran printer admits recession concerns him, but feels small businesses can still thrive.
To be honest, I was scared to death. But you know, if you never been trapped, you never will get anywhere. As my uncle used to say, nothing venture, nothing gain. So you have to just take that chance and try to do a lot of pre-planning. And hopefully, if you do your homework, you will succeed. And I have no, I didn't think about failing, because you think about failing, you will fail. You have to think positive. And that's what I try to always do.
Smith had been saving money for years in order to get his business started because loans are still hard to come by. He thinks as long as there's a demand for his service, the printing company will grow. But it also helps when you live in a state like Oklahoma where unemployment is low and working people have money to spend. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in northeast Oklahoma City.
Last year, we had 50,800 members during our membership drive, and our goal this year, in order to make our 35% of AmCare's capital and operating budget, was for 51,800, and I am expecting us to definitely meet that and probably surpass it.
During the last 2 days, the House Banking Committee has heard from several of the victims of the Penn Square Bank failure. All these victims have one thing in common. They say they aren't to blame for what happened to them. The victims are from all parts of the country and come in all sizes. These are representatives from relatively small savings and loans and credit unions. They pass the responsibility for their losses on to 3 groups: federal regulators, who they say didn't crack down on Penn Square; auditors, who allegedly wrote misleading reports; and money brokers, who advised them their deposits would be in good hands at the Oklahoma Bank. But one committee member says the victims better take a close look at themselves.
We're in the year of 1982, and I don't want to go back in history of all the swindles in this country, but they don't teach us anything. Because of one word: greed. How much more can I make someplace else? That's all it is.
And the committee chairman criticized them for not checking out Penn Square closely before investing.
If you don't know how deep the water is, and if you don't know how to swim, should you go into the water and take a chance on drowning just to cool off?
But St. Germain did have soothing words for the almost 200 credit unions and savings and loans that were left holding the bag. He told them they weren't alone, that the country boys at Penn Square had taken a lot of city slickers for a ride. Bill Ross, Action 4, Washington.
A state law enacted this year enables a state employee to longevity benefits, something of a reward and incentive plan for the workers. Employees are paid according to the number of years they have spent with the state of Oklahoma. A person boasting 20 or more years of service is now entitled to an $800 paycheck once a year. Lily Murray is a 30-year veteran with the state. She is a nurse for the state-run Oklahoma Memorial Hospital. She was told that an $800 paycheck would be hers as soon as the longevity checks were signed. When she finally got the money, it was about $450 short of what was promised.
I don't know. I really don't know. But I feel like since they went back to 1973, that any of the employees, even if they were working part-time, should have been paid some compensation for their years of service.
Lily was only paid for 9 years of service. 9 years ago, OMH was transferred from the State Regents of Higher Education to the Department of Human Services, and that only entitled Lily to 9 years of longevity pay.
We are trying to get this change. We feel like that these employees receive credit for retirement and insurance and are recognized as state employment. And we feel like that maybe this should be reconsidered.
The situation may not be resolved until the state legislature meets next January. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
What?
He's been down there for time. So I want to know if he's there.
Right here where I got the road. You want to go to the knots, Claire? Come on, man. Stay up here, man.
State fair officials are expecting another record year for attendance when all is said and done. In one day alone, nearly 250,000 people walk the Midway. With that many people in a space this size, security can be a problem. Children can get lost, and some youngsters might be attracted to the lures of life on the road. The police are as visible as they have always been at the fair. This year, there are more of them simply because of the larger crowds, but so far they report no major problems.
From that standpoint, we feel we have things comparatively well covered as far as security. We've not had any major problems as such. There have been the routine things that generally occur with an environment such as this. A great number of people in a rather confined area, so to speak. There have been some arrests made. There have been some felony arrests made. Most of the arrests, however, are for public intoxication.
The main attractions at the fair are the games of chance and the rides, and those are the areas where security is the most visible. Local citizens groups have helped out with security too, trying to make sure the only chances fairgoers take are at the games, and trying to help make the Oklahoma State Fair a winning proposition for everyone. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, the Oklahoma State Fair.
Oklahoma National is the latest bank to get into trouble.
Causing concern, Penn Square may not have been an isolated case. Meantime, Senator Bourne and other lawmakers are introducing legislation to help protect consumers if a bank should get into trouble. Bourne is proposing an increase in the amount of insurance a depositor could get in a given bank. Right now, the depositor is only insured up to $100,000. Bourne would like to see that amount increased to $900,000 or $1 million. He thinks that would keep people from taking their money to several different banks.
I think that would do a lot to restore confidence. It would particularly help reassure people who had large amounts of money in small institutions. And I think it would help bring a lot of stability in a situation. You know, I think more than anything right now we need confidence and we need a feeling of security. And I think if we can just regain our confidence, that'll do more to bring about an economic recovery in the country than anything else.
The fall of Penn Square Bank did cause many people to lose confidence in the banking system because they didn't understand how the bank could go under. Senator Bourne does not foresee a rush of bank failures. He says what happened at Penn Square Bank is unusual and temporary. He thinks once the economy bounces back, so will the banks. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at Penn Square Bank in Northwest Oklahoma City.
Well, we have no space for women, first of all, and that's our critical problem. The other problem is that while we've got some space left for men in sales, we cannot place them at the right levels of security. We are overclassifying people in some cases, and in other cases, we're just trying to move people along to be able to manage a system that is growing at about 160 per month. That's net growth, and we're getting in something like 230, 260 people per month.